Welcome to the Wally Report, MMA Savvy exclusive. Listen, baby, the Kings have returned once again, and we're ready to do it big. Today, we're back with the 5th installment of Excuse the Savvy, and we couldn't be more excited. In standard Savvy fashion, we'll be discussing the most recent UFC cards, covering all the hot MMA news, and deep diving specific UFC weight classes. Then we'll also look ahead to the big fights on the horizon and lay down our world famous Savvy picks. And of course, I am joined by our Excuse the Savvy co-host, Niko Tskalakos. Niko, how are you on this fine Sunday eve?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Ari. And it's been too long. It's great to be back. We have so much to dive into, and we've had some great developments in the MMA world that we need to unpack here. So great to be here.
And after last night, would you say that for you, this is the most anticipated show we've done so far after the feelings of last time?
I think that's fair to say. We have sort of reached peak 2025 here in terms of where we are with the sport, and the card last night set us well for the rest of the year. And it's the top card of the year right now. We have to look at it, talk about it, unpack it, because what occurred here was a historic evening. I think it was historic, and there's a lot of storylines here. I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I'll let you lead the way here, Ari. Let's get into this thing.
Yeah, so just, for the people that are joining Excuse the Savvy for the first time, right? What's the episode breakdown? I know I mentioned it with the intro a little bit, but let's give it for the new people just popping over. So recent card analysis. Yes, of course, we'll get into Emmett versus Murphy, but especially UFC 314 last night, baby. I'm still buzzing. We're going to go crazy on this. I think it just this is what we needed. We needed this big bump in 2025. Okay. Big MMA news. I actually got a lot, unlike the last show, we got a bunch of hot bookings to discuss. I even have some new secret ones that I didn't even tell you about in the outline that just popped up while I was studying.
Okay.
And then our
keep me on my toes. I like it. Let's do it.
State of MMA world topics. We're going to go into the significant strikes conversation and MMA scoring that we were talking offline with our guy, Richie Boy. We got a little bit heated there. I think this is needed. Okay. And then I feel like you've been waiting for this all your life. Specific divisional analysis. And guess where we are, baby? We're at lightweight. Your old favorite. I know it's not your favorite anymore, but for the longest time, you were a 155 purist above all.
Right.
And now we're going to be touching that heavy today.
I mean, we get listen, anyone listening in right now, you've seen us do heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight. And we got to lightweight. All right. So we just need to focus in here. This is the historic division. This is the Conor McGregor stamped, right, weight class. And we're going to unpack. We're going to see where we are with this weight class. It has fallen a little, I would say, Ari, just relative to the other classes, but not after last night. There's a lot to talk about. All right.
Yes,
there's a lot.
Yes. And then, upcoming card analysis. It's actually only one for the first time because we have a bye week next week, which is unjust. First protest. And then we're going to end with an if you were to touch segment. Okay, but before we get into this wild show, let's take our first quick break from our sponsors. Okay, so let's get into the meat of the show, baby. Lot of things to discuss, okay. Before we get into last night, we got to go back to Emmett versus Murphy. I'm going to pull it up. So listen.
Murphy.
Yeah, so I already covered this last week. So listen, for the newer fans that aren't already up to snuff on all the Excuse the Savvy, we do this long show. I also do the short weekly shows for people haven't listened to it yet. Go back and listen to last week. I already covered this, but because Niko wasn't there, let's just get your take honestly. Really quickly though, before we go, we got to count our picks. We both hit Finney. Osborne was a prelim that didn't count. We both hit Tavares. Really smart works there. Excellent. I hit Lee. You lose with Ramius. Tough loss there. I hit Sabatini, which was the big underdog pick. Your underdog didn't land. Mine did, which was huge. And now I know more about him, that he trains with Brady. He's an elite wrestler from Philly. And now I'm a big Sabatini guy. What gutsy call that I made there to get Sabatini. And then we get to Emmett Murphy. I've already said my piece. I maybe even think it was an unjust decision, but I've already analyzed this. What do you say about this? You liked Murphy getting the nod there?
I like Murphy getting the nod, and I'm gonna make you, Ari, just think back a few weeks and think about that Jan Blachowicz fight versus
Olberg.
right? And
Yes.
you were specifically saying, hey, sometimes you need to just get the win. You don't need to impress. You don't need to do the flash. You just need to lock in a win. And for Murphy, the undefeated, right, featherweight here, he just needed to get this win versus Josh Emmett, the veteran, right? Probably the veteran with the hardest strike of anyone in the division, obviously. He had to play it somewhat smart here, and that's what he did. So that's my take on this. You can't be talking out of two sides of your mouth, Ari, here. What do you say to that? That Leon Murphy did what he needed to do. I thought it was a clean, solid, decisive victory versus Emmett. He didn't do anything flashy, but he just took care of the fight.
Yeah, so listen, it's so funny that you say that, because I was going to almost bring that up, right? To throw that back in your face a little bit of, this was like almost the exact opposite of how we had that whole other situation. But the thing is, in the other one, Jan barely threw. Jan didn't do enough. At least Emmett was throwing bombs the whole time, and maybe he wasn't fully landing, but he was clipping him. He definitely won the first round, and then he even almost had snuck out the second. And I just don't remember ever thinking like, I guess you could say Olberg didn't really do enough either, but he got more leg kicks in, and Jan didn't really throw. Where Emmett was throwing here, and I just still feel like, yeah, I guess. But it was that same thing where, almost like you had said, was like, did Murphy really do enough to win this? I mean, listen, I didn't really leave it feeling.
I hear you. I thought Josh Emmett gave a valiant effort, and he really did, put his all into this fight. But Murphy was always just one step ahead. He was the more tactical, the technician, and he had control of this fight. I never was worried about Murphy in this one. I wasn't concerned. I felt he was always one step ahead, and he had this locked down, and he took care of business. Great victory for Murphy. Where does he go next? I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Ari. Are you thinking where this might take him here?
Well, I mean, think about, if you want, we could just take a gander at that, right? Murphy now is number 8 in the world. Maybe give him an Ortega, right? Ortega's kind of sitting there, or Arnold Allen, his fellow Brit. I like either one of those fights, because I think Rodriguez now, he's going to probably be propelled for a rematch against Volk, you would imagine. He's probably the next guy there. Agree. Unless, because what a performance that he had. Unless Evloev gets it, because now Lopez has lost. So maybe if Rodriguez doesn't get it and he has to wait for Evloev to fight Volk, then maybe you give Murphy Rodriguez, something like that.
That makes sense. I like these ideas. And it's exciting. And we'll talk more about it when we get to last night.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just go back. We both took Murphy. I did take him on my picks, as everybody know. I just wasn't like, I wasn't just like how you felt with that Olberg situation.
I know.
I just felt unsatisfied by, and I didn't like Bisping and everybody saying it was so clear. I'm like, that was not clear.
It was clear. Come on. It was clear. There's no question that he didn't win the fight. Now, but you could have complained. You could have said, listen, I wanted to see more from him. I wanted to see something more decisive, and I get that. I get that point of view. But to say it wasn't clear, I mean, come on.
I felt very muddy, like it was 2-2, and I guess he takes the 5th, so he wins 3-2. But I haven't felt that just confused leading up to a decision in a while. I wasn't that blown away. All right, So we've said our piece. I go 5-0 for the night, and you went 3-2, but I'll count up our picks later. Okay. So Let's get crazy. I love how we knew that this was going to be such an epic show because we knew that this was going to have just happened, right? We knew that Volk Lopez UFC 314 was going to be last night and we were going to be buzzing. We were going to be going nuts. I wouldn't say the greatest card ever, but it was definitely the best card of the year. And it was the most stacked and it was the most energy and the most implications, right? So,
we've been talking about how Dana has, we've been not Dana. I don't want to put it on Dana, but that some of the cards have not lackluster, but they haven't been well rounded. They haven't been stacked enough, and I felt that this was an exemplary card. The type of card with the type of fights, the type of notoriety, the type of caliber fights that we want to see. On all 5 of the main card fights were solid and were actually wonderful to watch. Just great, great ball.
So really quickly, let me just cover a couple things in the prelims. The only thing I want to talk about is Hooper. Definitely is a major future problem. His grappling is unbelievable. He's won a couple in a row. He's only like 26-year-old. Watch out for him. He's big framed at lightweight. Once he gets a little bit more of the grown man size and strength, he could be a future problem. He needs to perfect his striking, but definitely like he dispatched of another really crafty veteran. The bigger fight that could have been on a main card was definitely Yao Jianan versus Jandiroba. Now, I thought that Yan was going to be way more in this fight, and she just got out-grappled. Jandiroba now probably is going to be in line for the title against Zhang Weili. And she is really, really high-level grappling. This was a big fight in the women's MMA side. We're going to probably see her in the future. That's a big one because I don't know if Weili, I mean, we've said this before, but I don't know if anybody can deal with that level of grappling. It's going to be a big fight. And then this was an interesting one. Ige Woodson. Woodson maybe was even up in a couple of those first rounds. It was very close. Ige hit him with a massive punch in the third and then dropped him. But then he got back up. He was fighting. Ige had him in trouble and was sort of punching from the side, and they stopped it very prematurely. I don't think Rogan and Cormier were correct on this, that it was like the worst stoppage they'd ever seen, but it definitely wasn't great. Big Rich also was like, oh my God, it was egregious. I don't think it was like the worst ever because Woodson was already hurt and was probably the beginning of the end, but it was definitely premature. Did you see this? Did you see what happened here?
I did not see the fight, but what I'm taking from this is the story here is that Ige keeps his ranking. He was teetering on the brink of falling off the top 15, so he has maintained his position. That's the storyline here, and I think that's good for him. I'm glad he got that victory. Because we like him. I've enjoyed watching him. I like him as a striker. He's solid.
Yeah, and it was amazing because he might have been a little bit down, and he hits him with huge punches in the third. You would have been losing your mind because we probably would have had the Ige pick. Yeah, okay, right. And he keeps the 15. So anyway, I just wanted to address those really quickly. Let's go to the main card. Let me set the stage here, and then I'll let you give your take. Now, this one we didn't actually have an official pick because it was supposed to be on the prelims. But then because of that other cancellation, this got promoted, but it was after we had done our show. But number 8 in the world, Nikita Krylov versus number 11, Dominic Reyes. Now, this was a quick fight. It only went 2 minutes in. And Krylov looked okay. He was throwing a couple kicks. He was dancing around. He's a great striker and great on the ground. Reyes, we know, has been an ex-title challenger. Then he loses 3 straight. He falls from grace to win 2 straight back. So it was a big pivotal fight for both of them right in that sort of the middle of the pack in light heavyweight. And the story is Reyes, man, because Krylov comes in 2 minutes in. He's trying to, dance around with a couple kicks and punches. And then boom, he hits him with that unbelievable left, basically just completely knocking him out. Reyes is back 3 straight wins. He's going to be number 8 in the world. And then this is, and I'll let you take over here, Niko, but this is testament to the bigger weight classes. And it wasn't even a full, gigantic blow. It was literally almost stepping backwards, left cross, and then completely lights out. Reyes is going to be back brimming with confidence. What do you say on this one?
Well, first of all, Reyes. When we think Reyes, what do you think, Ari? First thing that you think about is that he's the one human being that has brought John Jones to the brink of defeat and almost had him, and some people had him versus John Jones. So we have to remember that. Here is he's had an amazing run. He is he's been at the top of the game for a while now. He had fallen right more recently. It's great to see his recent surge coming back. His performance, it was partly momentum, but there's something about Krylov was coming in, approaching him, and he caught him with the left as he was coming in, and he was like, I think he just went out right away. There was no even need for him to
It was unbelievable.
continue. It was unbelievable. So what Reyes, has said here is, hey, I'm still here. I don't know where it takes him, but it was very impressive to see that. And Krylov, he's a karate guy, he has a very special form of karate, a very brutal form. I don't know the details of it,
but
and you could see it in some of the kicks and what he was trying to do early in the fight. But Reyes was just quicker to the punch, and got there as Krylov was pulling in. Great performance for Reyes. We're excited for him, and he stays relevant.
And that's what makes MMA so such a beautiful sport, that you can have a fall from grace, unlike boxing, and then you can rally and go on another win streak later and still stay relevant and maybe have title hopes down the line. It doesn't mean your career is over when you lose 3. Sometimes it can, but Reyes has shown that now he's won 3 straight. He's going to go back to number 8 in the world. He's going to get a number 5 guy. And then if you beat the number 5 or 4, you're right back for a title shot if you do it in dynamic and crazy fashion, right? So that's what's so beautiful about this sport is you can get second and third and sometimes fourth chances depending on the division and what's happening. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to shake it up, and I'm going to let you do the initial analysis, and I'll do the rebuttal. I'll just set the stage really quickly. Performance of the night, number 13 in the world, Bryce Mitchell versus Jean Silva, the new superstar from the fucking nerds. I'll let you take this away, and I'll sit back.
All right, listen, Ari, the story of the night could be Jean Silva's performance, and he made a mark. He put everyone on notice in the division. He reminded me his confidence in that fight that was just exuding, and you could see it, as he almost taunted Bryce Mitchell during the fight, reminded me of Mirage Dashvili, what he does in fights.
Merab,
but what Merab does has that same level of confidence and invincibility about him. And Jean Silva showed that. I have not seen that prowess, that level of dominance. He was so comfortable in there. And don't get me wrong, Bryce Mitchell started the fight pretty well and was active and was aggressive and was doing stuff. He was actually doing stuff, but to him it was like just water off his back. It was nothing. It was like it just didn't have an impact. And this Silva was so domineering and powerful, and what he was able to do there was just unbelievable. Jean Silva is to be reckoned with. He is catapulting to the top of the conversation right now. Who he gets, I don't know how the matchmakers are going to figure that jumble up at the top of that division right now. But Jean Silva is here, and Bryce Mitchell. I'm sorry, I've watched 3 fights where I said I don't think a person can come back from what I've just witnessed. I just don't see him having a future, and he has a great ground game, and he fought hard and all that good stuff. But I just don't see a future for him. Jean Silva was not just a story for 145. It was the story for the night. Very exciting. That's my take, Ari.
Yeah, great. Well said. I agree with pretty much everything. I think Silva, man, these nerds are crazy. They're all they haven't lost. And here's the thing, Mitchell, he did go for it, and he was trying to grapple him. He was trying to wrestle him, and I was so surprised that he couldn't even get one of them, because normally he actually has unbelievable grappling, and even though he doesn't look huge, he's wrestled for so long, he can get bigger guys down. So I was shocked that there wasn't one takedown that he got. So Silva's going to be number 13 in the world. He takes the ranking, and I think you're right. Mitchell, I think, is just he might still be able to hover around and wrestle somebody and get a win, but now we know he's never going to be a title challenger. I mean, yes, it could just be Silva's that good, but if you can't even beat an unranked guy and get a single takedown, and your hands are not that great, what are you really going to do? So yes, the story is Silva. And then the crazy thing is that he then ended up getting the submission, which I believe was a Darce choke. Right. He gets the performance of the night. He's going to be number 13 in the world, and now he's going to get another. And featherweight is on the rise right now.
It is.
Featherweight is
really
on the rise. A lot of fighters coming in there, and now he's going to get a big fight. You know, if they were even joking with on the telecast last night, imagine him, Silva versus Rodriguez or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
With those two guys going against each other like two ninjas in there. But anyway, we both hit the Silva pick. That was our first pick of the night, so we both hit that. Okay, now we get to Yair Rodriguez. Say I timed that perfectly. Number 5 in the world against another, and this is actually going to be a theme of the night, as Bellator guys are kind of slowly coming over. Of course, we're going to have Chandler next, but Pitbull, we know him because he had been a Bellator guy. He had been a dual weight, double weight champion over there. He had come over finally, but I did say it was a little too late. He might be a little too old, a little too passive. And we both, of course, smartly took Rodriguez in this one. And I think the story was, man, Rodriguez, remember they kept saying how amazing in shape he was. He looked better than he ever had because he's coming out like after getting kind of beat up by Volk. He kind of probably realized, oh man, if I ever want to be champ, I got to like improve my game 20, 25, 30% better, get to new heights. And his striking, yes, Pitbull was kind of in it the first couple rounds, but he never felt that comfortable. He was kind of sluggish, and Rodriguez just looked like a dynamo, man. I mean, he was unbelievable from his different level of strikes, his kicks, just everything. Pitbull was in it, and then finally the third round, boom, just took him down, almost finished him, and then got pretty much the easy unanimous decision. Now, Yair, he might get a title shot. He's going to be right up there with that performance because either he's going to fight Volk or Evloev is going to fight Volk. So that catapulted him, and he even called it out because they're going to do a Guadalajara card. Did you catch that later in the year? He said, hey, championship in Mexico, but I don't know if now Volk has the cards in his hand. I don't know if they'll be able to make that fight, but very impressive. And then on the flip side, I don't know what Pitbull does now because it's not like he came in and was that impressive. So he might get, I'm sure they just signed him, so they're going to give him another fight and let him hover around. But I just knew that if it was like 3 or 4 years ago, he would have been a different guy. But I think he's in the back half of his career and it wasn't that impressive. What are your feelings on this?
All right. Well, my feelings on Pitbull were disappointment is a word that comes to mind. I expected him to be more aggressive. I expect him to say, I belong here. I'm going to show you I belong here. He was too passive. When you have that much of a length difference, you need to be the one getting closer. You need to make that fight a scrappier fight and get in to neutralize the opponent's
close the distance.
And he was doing the exact opposite. He was not closing the distance. He was staying passively just still, almost motionless. And Yair Rodriguez was launching kick after kick and using his length to his advantage and pretty much was dominating. Now, Patricio showed some flashes of his striking. He got a couple of good hits in there, but it was nowhere near enough, and he was not aggressive enough. So I was very disappointed. I said, why did you come to the UFC and not show us that you belong here? That was just, and even at the very end of the fight, it was just like you're kind of giving up. I mean, I was not impressed with Pitbull here. And you're right, it could be an age thing. It could be like he's on the tail end of his career. Yair Rodriguez has upped his game, and he is a force to be reckoned with here. And it's very interesting how this is going to play out between Evloev, Rodriguez. You have Volk waiting here in the wings, and how this all plays out, we'll see. But very exciting night for him. Congrats to him. And that's my take.
Yes, good take. We both hit that. We're both 2-0 for the night. We both called it. A little part of me was like, maybe Pitbull comes in. Rodriguez can be up and down from fight to fight. And so I'm glad that we were smart enough to hold the fort, know that our number 5 in the guy, number 5 guy in the world was going to hold up. Okay, we'll flip it back to you here, but let me just set the stage. This is holy Lord. I was up late last night just thinking about the ramifications, the implications. What the fuck does this mean? Almost sad for Chandler, but at number 7 in the world, Chandler versus number 12 in the world at lightweight, Paddy Pimblett, co-main event. Take it over, Niko. I'll give this one to you.
Paddy the Baddie, his era has arrived. This is going to be his era at 155, okay? I'm saying it now. I just have a feeling about this guy. He has that it factor. he has something special going in his relationship with the fans, with the camera. He has the full package from striking and in terms of the ground game that's to be feared. He has gotten bigger in my eyes over the year, and he's just seems like a beast. He's a beast here.
Yeah.
And honestly, Michael Chandler, he went up, I think 1-0 in this fight. Do you realize this? He actually
Yeah, I
was
think maybe he
almost
squeaks the first
maybe
round.
squeaked the
Yeah.
first round, or it was a very close first round. So I said, wow, okay. But you kind of always knew Patty had it. He had the advantage here, and Chandler was so gassed. And what Patty was able to do with that knee and just slice it right up the middle, slice what was his cheek, open his
Yeah.
cheek up, and then just take care of business. I'm telling you, Patty the Batty is going to make a mark in this division. Where does he go next? I don't know. He just catapults to the 7th spot. Am I correct here, Ari? So Patty the Batty, and he's an entertaining person to watch and to listen to. He is funny too. He's just got a charisma. He's got a way about him. He harkens back to McGregor, at least in terms of the allure. So we're excited. Great performance for him.
Yeah, and so I'm with you on pretty much everything you say. We haven't really had to argue much on this show here, Niko. I think that there's the tale of two stories, okay? Pimblett's coming out party. He's never looked better. So impressive. I was almost worried for him going into this because, like, oh man, Chandler might just knock this guy out and just derail the whole Patty train, okay? But we both felt that he was well-rounded enough in his ground game and he was maybe going to wear Chandler down. But this was way above and beyond. And yes, you're right. He looked huge at lightweight. Patty sometimes is ballooned up to 200 when he's not fighting, because he doesn't diet that well. He's actually a bigger framed guy than you think, because he looks like he's not huge, right? When you're sitting there at the press conference. I'm actually shocked that he performed that well. I couldn't believe the domination, because in the second and the third round. So hats off to him. And yes, he's the new star that everybody's looking for. I'm going to hold off on saying who I think he should fight next, because we have the lightweight analysis later today. But on the flip side, I got to say, I think the other part of the story is the disappointment in Chandler, because he looked good in the beginning. He gets the takedown, even landed a couple punches. He's controlling Patty. He picked him up twice. But then it's like he gassed himself out. And by the second round, all of a sudden he wasn't the same guy. I'm like, bro, you can't. It's a 5-round fight. You're already tired in the second round. And then by the third round, it was like he was done. It was like, so this is what I had texted you guys. Waiting for Conor for almost like a year and a half to 2 years. He killed the last good years of his career, because now, even against the last Oliveira, he also looked off. But then he had that big run in the end, and you're like, okay, he's still around. So Chandler, and I think in everybody's eyes, now I guess he has to walk away. I think that's it for him, where now Patty is catapulted. And I think what's so crazy about the Patty win is he might be able to take on not just the top 5. He might actually be a champion in this fucking weight class, baby. I mean, that was like, either Chandler has just sunk that low, or Patty is that good. And maybe we'll find out in Patty's next fight, but I think we keep saying that. Okay.
Well, yeah, and we're gonna save our remaining thoughts when we get to the 155 analysis, okay?
Exactly. So then we get to the main event. Volk Lopez, massive fight. For a while I was kind of doing my song and dance of, well, it should have been Topuria, and I was kind of being sour about it. And I was worried that Volk was done because he loses 2 to Islam and Topuria. And like when that happens mentally, even with the greats, the Liddells of the world, the Anderson Silvas, usually that means it's kind of the beginning of the end. It's very rare that they come back and reset themselves and get the belt again after 3 brutal losses like that. So I stupidly doubted him, baby. I doubted Volk. And I took Lopez, which still he was at a valiant fight. I mean, man, that guy hung in there, because I thought he was getting beat up early, and then he knocks Volk down in the second. So here's my thoughts on it, and then I'll let you give your side. Is the biggest story here is fucking Volk still the man, dude. He stepped up and he said, no, I'm not going to listen to the doubters. I don't care that I'm 36 now. I'm not even going to listen to Wally's bullshit about me losing to Lopez. I'm going to come out there and I'm going to show this young guy, not this time. Not, we always talk about maybe the young guy stepping up in class and the older guy getting that one last big signature win. Man, Volk did it. Yes, there was adversity. Lopez knocks him down at the end of the second round that turned the fight a little bit because Volk was about to go up 2-0. But then Volk still gets the third round. But for only Lopez to then maybe come back and win round 4 because he had Volk wobbled a couple times. But then in standard Alexander the Great fashion, he wins round 5, and either he gets it 3-2 or 4-1, and that's how the judges saw it. And I gotta just say, like, this just made me happy about the UFC, about the guy that you love doing it one last time for all of us and not getting, that's what we thought maybe Chandler was going to do with Patty, right? And not lose to the young wave, right? With its, I think, sweeping the UFC right now, right? And so he does it. He does it for us. Lopez, though, should be very proud of what he did. He's still going to be right there because that wasn't like one of those brutal, just beat down losses where they go, "Oh my God, where does this guy even go?" Like when Rodriguez lost to Volk. Now Lopez is still going to be, oh my God, he's right there. He's right there in the top 3. He's a stud. He's a badass. But now Volk did what he said he was going to do, and now he can fight Evloev. Now he can fight Rodriguez. Now, who knows, maybe fucking Silva in a couple fights. Your new boy. Volk might have to fucking deal with him.
I know.
So, loved it. It made me feel just so great about the sport and the state of the UFC that Volk did that for us. He got the belt back, which is very rare. They even said that there's a stat in the lighter weight classes. No one over 35 has ever reclaimed a belt in the history of the UFC. Something must be to do with the lighter weight classes, the athleticism of the younger guys. Just does really well. So I know I was pretty thorough there, Niko, but what is your thoughts?
I'll be quick. I want to hone in on the part of the fight where Lopez had Volkanovski backing up, cut him. He got hit in the eye. Volk's backing up, and I got this awful feeling in me that reminded me of when lost to Topuria. Yeah, to Topuria especially. And I said to myself, and I could feel the announcers even feeling something's wrong here. Like the optics were just not good. You could feel Volkanovski in a retreat, and to see this human. He is really the great, let's call him Alexander the Great. That was the best part of what you said. He really truly is a champion. He showed a resiliency that I think is, very few people possess. And to be able to kind of come back the way he did after 2 straight knockouts, to take round 1 decisively, to really be winning round 2 decisively. If it were not for that knockdown in the end of round 2, that could have popped that one up in the air, and it could have been either person's round. To stay with it, to stick it through the way he did, and really, ultimately, it was clear he was the victor. And Lopez, valiant, and he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And he has a very high energy, and just, he also just has a motor that doesn't stop. And that was great to see. But Alexander Volkanovski, very proud of what he's done. And you know what? I just want to see, where does he, what happens next, for him? Who can he take now to just kind of cement his legacy? Because now I think it's a matter of, all right, I redeemed myself. I silenced the doubters. But now I want to show that I'm still at that one of the top of all time.
Yeah, I think right now as we're looking at it, and then we'll pause, but I think it's got to be Evloev or Rodriguez, right? Because Evloev's sitting there, but Rodriguez just put on a great show, and almost maybe he deserves it with that performance, right? Because it's always a what have you done for me lately sport. But Ortega and Allen and those guys are way far off. They're going to have to fend off the Murphys of the world, and deal with that. So it's got to be Evloev, Rodriguez, and then we'll see what happens with your boy Silva, right? Wow. So it's the last thought here is, what a great card. This is what we need more of, Dana. Let's do this more often, baby. And we got some hot stuff to talk about later today. So with that, now you change the dynamics of your night tier, because you go 4-0 for the night, which you really needed after a 3-2 night before. That I go 3-1. So you cut it back. So now look at these records. I'm 27-12 now for the year.
Wow.
But you because of that 4-0 night, you go to 22-17. That's respectable.
Very
And
respectable. I'm in the winning column. It's what, a 50-something percent, or not 60,
yeah,
quite
you're
60%, but
and you're only 5 fights down after going to a 6 fight after I ran the table on the Emmett Murphy night with that Sabatini pick. So that the Volk win was big for you. And then I'll just say really quickly that if you were to touch segment, we went 2-1. And I went back and listened to the tape to make sure we hit Volk, we hit the baddie, and then we lost on Emmett because we said, hey, why not take Emmett just
right.
for a puncher's chance to double your money? So
And
if
it
you were
almost
to
came
touch
in.
us
I
are
mean, that
hitting.
was not so far off anyway. That was still
Exactly.
a solid.
I mean, he was there. Could have been, it was a very close decision. So with that, let's take another quick break from our sponsor. Okay, and we're back, baby. So big MMA news, another one of your favorite segments. Yes. So let's talk about 2 weeks from now. I got to talk about it a little bit on the side, but I want to give your day in the sun. Okay. So for most people, they know that it was supposed to be Roundtree versus Hill, April 26th, 2 weeks from now. That fight got moved, and I already have the new date. That's also going to be part of this show here, okay? I already have the new date for that. So who steps in but Gary to fight Protest? Because Protest, remember, he was supposed to fight Neil recently. That one got canceled. Big Rich was all up in arms about it. He was devastated. So Protest needed a new dance partner, as they like to say. So Gary, and I don't know if I like that he did this, but he's probably still a little bit. Sometimes when guys are reeling from that last loss, they want to jump in and take a short notice. But sometimes that, we talk about Volkanovski, that can haunt you. So I don't know if I love that Gary has done this because Protest is a rising star. Okay, but what I love about it is that they've saved the card, because if you're going to lose Hill and Roundtree, you better get a Gary Protest to save it for us, okay? We're not going to go through the whole card yet. Later we will. But now it's number 7 Gary versus number 13 Protest, okay? And I already analyzed this, and we're going to do our picks on it later, of course. But I just wanted to get, what are your feelings on this booking? Are you happy that they saved the night with this fight?
Yeah, it's a salvaged card with Gary particularly in the picture. I mean, Protest is new and sizzling and hot, and he's got momentum, but it's Gary that's, I think, elevating the card here and saving it. I thought because of Gary's last loss, Ari, which was a loss, but it was a very, very good performance on his part. First, Rakhmonov, if I'm correct.
Yes, Rakhmonov. Yeah, he took him all the way to the end.
An excellent. He fought very well against one of the best, right, in the entire class. So I think it's good. He's saying to himself, there's a confidence there in saying, bring on, I want to fight now. Yeah, he kind of wants to just get back into the win column here. It could be a little bit dangerous, but I feel it's a solid move for Gary, because I still think he has upside. So this is going to be, for me, a big test to see if he can, he can get back into the win column, get back into it fast, so he can have his eye further up, his sights closer to the top 5 here.
Yeah, but I just got to say, and I know I already covered it last week, but at least when you lose Hill versus Roundtree, it's a great backup. Sometimes Dane has to scramble and you get garbage and you're like, oh my God, right? And they put the co-main just to the main.
No,
you're like,
this
Jesus.
is more than respectable. More than respectable.
Exactly. So we're going to analyze this later. I just wanted to bring it up because it's new news you didn't get to talk about yet. Okay, next little thing, we're going to pepper through these. Okay, Burns versus Morales. Now, this was already booked. This isn't new news, but what has changed is this. This fight was supposed to be on the Montreal card, the Jack Della versus Muhammad. But what they've done, and because they needed a new main event a week later, Burns Morales has been promoted to a main event Vegas fight, probably at the Apex, which we're both not going to like, but it's been promoted. Your boy, May 17th, now has been promoted to the main event. Are you happy with that? Or are you very worried about this fight? And do you like this?
I think giving Burns a main event, I think, is to essentially thank him for the fights he's taken. Who are his last 3 opponents? It it's like
I mean, he had to go against
Chimaev,
Brady. He had to go against Jack
Muhammad,
Della.
right?
I mean, it's messed up.
Yeah, so he's fought in the top echelon. He's a dog. He's willing to say yes. So I think this is a thank you to give him the main event and fill that spot. But he's going to face another very, very tough opponent here, and I don't know. I need to see if he's back. I need to see if he still has the burns, that we know, if it's still there, if he's still there, because his last fights he hasn't been the same guy. So
well, the one thing I will say on his side is he was about to win the Jack Della fight. If you can remember, though, he went back to his grappling roots. He wrestled him for 2 rounds. We were about to say, oh my God, Burns has done it. He's back in the win column. And remember, I think Jack Della, like on his way up from getting away from the takedown, hit him with some insane uppercut and then just flattened him with like a few shots to the ground and completely ended it. And you were like, oh my God, Burns was about to win. So at least on that part, he was about to win the fight. And it was about a minute away.
Actually, that's true. He has signs.
So,
he has signs. He showed signs of his of the burns we know. So let's see. This one's it's not that far away. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's coming up. It's coming around the corner.
That's why I wanted to give it to you, because this is your guy. And look, this is hot because this is only a month away. At least you have some big bookings around the corner. We got the Gary Prates, then we got the big, Mohammed Jack Della card, and then this right after that. So we got some action.
Beautiful. I like it.
Okay, let's keep this moving, because you're not going to believe what I'm about to bless with you next. Okay, so I already said my piece last week. I'll just set the stage again, but live in Newark, so it's going to be right near you. Merab O'Malley 2 has been booked for the main event, UFC 316. We know that this is a rematch. We know Merab did enough to, get the decision on O'Malley, but O'Malley was dealing with a hurt hip. He had a hip problem that he's had surgery on now. He's also been wrestling day and night, supposedly. He's been off social media. He's been fixated on getting this win. But I don't know if anybody can deal with the machine, but maybe he can get just space enough on a couple of the rounds and get some shots in. We'll see. I already analyzed this, so I'm going to let you take this over. What is your thoughts?
My quick thoughts, and I'll be brief here, but Ari, if you remember the first fight, O'Malley lost that fight. We understand that. He didn't do enough to get a win. But if you recall, he settled into that fight. And I actually think the last 3 rounds, like he could have even
they were close.
Put him on the win column on those. Like he turned that fight around a little bit. He got the momentum going. And I saw the potential of what we can see in this fight in that previous fight. So I do think it's a good call that he's getting this opportunity. O'Malley is not just any random fighter here. This is O'Malley. He has a name. He is exciting. He is the young generation of fighters, and he's going up against the top of the top. It's going to be exciting. I want to see it again because he did have that injury, but he showed to me that he can win the fight. It's serious. O'Malley can do it. I think he can. It reminds me of what O'Malley went into the Jan fight, where it was like, can he do this versus Jan? And a lot of people said he didn't deserve that fight, but
he didn't deserve that win. But at least when he got up from the takedowns and the grappling, he hit him with devastating shots. That's what he has to do. My take is like, he can't just let Merab wrestle him for 5 rounds. If he sees that's where it's going, any chance that he gets, he better throw bombs, because he might just be getting taken down anyway. So he's got to maximize. Hopefully he can deal. Hopefully he can, Umar was the first one we saw at least was able to deal with the takedowns of Merab, but that's also because Umar is the second best wrestler in the entire division, which we can't say about O'Malley. So I don't know if it's going to be the same fight, but I think this is one of those ones where, I've been going on and on about I'm pissed about Ankalaev Pereira 2. I don't want to see that again. This one I do want to see. Maybe it's because we're biased and we loved O'Malley, but I do feel like he still has a better shot in this one, like you were just saying. There's still that belief that if they're on the feet with that amazing range, and we know that's how Merab lost a little bit early in his career, was getting knocked out, O'Malley has the chance. Do I think he's going to win this? No. I think Merab probably wins this fight, but at least there's that great 35% chance which I know you'll probably disagree with.
I disagree. I think it's closer, yeah. Maybe it's
Yeah.
55-45, something like that.
Right. So
So
anyway,
we're
we're
around
we're
the edges.
pumped on it. It's still
We're
just a
pumped.
great. You like the bookings. Look at all these right in a row now.
I
Look at all
know.
these. Boom. This is June 7th. This is not even that.
That
This is less than 2 months away.
kicking
Okay,
off the
let's
summer
keep.
nicely. I love it.
Now I got a couple other small ones for you that we're going to end, and then we'll go to the State of MMA World. Okay. They've rebooked, which I
love
don't
it.
think you've heard yet. They
I have.
rebooked Hill versus Roundtree. Okay. Because remember how that got moved off? That's how we have the Gary Protest fill in. This got now moved right around the corner, 2 months away, June 21st. So there's nothing really. We've already both analyzed this. This is me just letting you know, and also the fans and the audience know that, hey, they've rebooked it. I like when they do that versus splitting it up and then you never got to see the fight. Are you happy with this rebooking?
Listen,
and are you happy to see that boom, 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 we have all
I
these
like
things
that they're
right in a
both going to
row?
be healthy. They're both going to be healthy. It's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm wondering about, can Hill keep it for 5 rounds? If he can keep it a 5-round fight, I think he has the edge slightly because he can go the distance. He's proven that he can. Where Roundtree might tire out, I worry. But if Roundtree is able to get him early in any exchange and get something clean, the fight could be over. So it's going to be a very, very dramatic evening. I'm so excited they booked it, and it's locked in.
Yeah, and the one last thing, because we like to talk about international cards and growing the fan base of the world. It's in Azerbaijan, baby.
Wow.
Baku Crystal Hall.
Baku.
So it's a
Oh, wow. In
noon
Baku.
card for us, a 3 p.m. for you. Okay,
Perfect.
final bit of news. This also just, remember how we were talking about flyweight recently? Okay, It's not even on. They finally booked. Remember we were saying, well, what is Cop going to get, baby?
Wow.
He's got Royval. They've
Roy-
rebooked that fight. That was the fight that was supposed to happen before Cop fought Almabayev for that fill-in, that backup.
Right.
So, and this interesting thing is, this is the first booking on the International Fight Week card that I told you about. That's June 28th. So 1 week later, now you got Cop Royval, and that's the one where we think could be Aspinall Jones. It could be the Islam fight. It could be Pereira coming back. It could be DDP Kamayev. See what I mean? And so at least this is, but we're happy because now this is just like more divisions moving along. You don't like when there's that, when we
Stagnancy.
wait too long,
Yeah,
right?
I don't like waiting.
So I figured you'd like this, especially because you're a Cop guy.
I'm a big Cop guy. And what's Royval's ranking? He's right up.
I knew you were going to ask me that. So this is why this is big. Royval is the #1 contender in the world, and Cop is #6. So you see how now Pantoja is, they're probably having him sit because they're either going to have him fight Moreno again for like the 3rd or 4th time, or they're going to give Cara France. I'm just wondering why Pantoja is sitting. They might give someone else to Pantoja while Cop fights Royval. That's probably what occurs now.
I like it. It's exciting.
Okay.
Excellent.
So that was all the hot MMA news. A lot of things booked. Now what we're going to do, we're going to talk about state of the MMA world topic. We don't need to go too deep into it, but I just figured we got to discuss it. Okay. Yeah. This will be an ongoing discussion for the next couple months with you, me, and Big Rich when he joins the show. Let's talk about.
He was joining tonight. I was expecting him to come.
No,
to make an early entrance.
Probably in 1 month he's joining. About 1 month he'll be on.
Great.
People are going to be pumped on this new edition. So significant strikes. Okay, and this I think is perfect. Was the Emmett fight was a good example, right? There's multiple things with this. I've been complaining, and then Big Rich has been arguing back about significant strikes and the importance of them throughout the rounds. And you'll even hear the announcers kind of say, well, such and such is up 13-10. But to me, that's always like, yes, it's an indicator. It's an indicator, Rich. I believe in the significant strikes, but what I don't like, they should have strikes, and they should have significant strikes. And then they should have knockdowns, and it should be in a chart. And those are separate data points. And then there should be takedowns, submission attempts, control. We should almost see like a bigger chart. And I don't know how messy that would look like on the screen, but I'm just saying it's not just significant strikes, because 2-3 fucking bullshit peppering leg kicks don't count the same as one devastating blow from Emmett. So what I would at least like to say is better transparency on have strikes and significant strikes, at least to start, and then say, okay, a significant strike counts as 3-1 to a standard little bullshit leg strike. Then there also should be almost head strikes are more important to me than leg strikes, unless it's like a devastating one where, you know, when the guy's like, oh my God, I can't walk, or he hit the side and they, you know, you never think of a little thing to the calf as much as a nice jab to the face. You see what I mean? So that's also the one thing that I would like to argue about. So we need better transparency, and then look at knockdowns. That should be a 5-1 or maybe even a 10-1. If it's a devastating knockdown and you almost finish the guy, that's 10 strikes to one meaningless little significant strike. So I just wanted to at least say, and I'll let you give your take here too, is when you just look at, I'm so sick of the announcers and the commentators just being, well, it looks like Cop is up because he had 30 that round and that guy had 26. I'm like, bro, what if that 26, 15 of those were bigger punches and the guy with 30, 20 of those were just little nothing leg kicks? So I just think that, yes, it's an indicator, but they're not giving us enough detail within those. Do you agree? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we basically are aligned in this regard. But I also don't want to discount, like, volume is an indicator too.
Sure.
You know, if there is a big discrepancy in terms of volume and there's a significant disparity in terms of significant strikes, and I'll talk about it in a second.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Then that matters too. It has some say. Like, pressure matters, just like someone takes someone down and sits on him and we're counting control time. Well, you got to count volume too. And even if it's pitter patter, you're getting more in, you're getting more strikes. There's something to it, but it's not the full story. That's not deep enough. And to your point, there is nuance here. There's pitter patter. There's a strike. There's a significant strike. I'd even say there's a high impact strike, and then there's a knockdown. Okay,
right.
And there's levels to this, and you know, whether you can quantify it in the fight, I'm not sure. If we need to, we do need to understand the aspects of the game that are impacting the judging, that are impacting the scoring of the fight. We need to understand that array of things that are, you know, the measures, the metrics. What are they? And I think it might be much, much more. It can't just be significant strike as one-dimensional metric. Okay, that has to be parsed out to 2 or 3 things, I think, on that end. But don't forget, you've got pressure, you've got takedowns, you've got control time. Right. And then you have the quality of the strike. What's the quality of the strike? Right.
Yeah.
And so, and to your point, Ari, at the same time, you can be hitting someone on the legs with significantly, or you can be pitter pattering too. It's not even where it is. I mean, I do think it matters a leg strike versus a strike to the face. Obviously, there's a difference there. But even when you're striking the leg, it's different to do a pitter patter than to do one that you know is
devastating leg strike.
You know, it's creating problems for him. He switches his stance. You know that there's hurt, there's pain. It's impacting the way that person is fighting. So all these things matter. We don't, you know, and step back, it is a question of some level of transparency, at least qualitative understanding of how the rounds were scored and why would be nice. I don't know if we can get that from the judges, if we can somehow get that aspect, or we do track it, like you say, as they do in real time, and give us a little bit of a wider array of metrics that we are following or tracking. The announcers should be speaking to it, and they kind of try to when they speak to it. But those are the things that sway.
They sometimes say, like, oh, that they were more impactful, the shots. But I feel like sometimes in the heat of the moment, they're not always paying attention, and then they're just looking at these just meaningless strike counts later, and then you're like, hey, dude, do you remember that? And most of the time we're getting it right, 70, 80. But I'm saying there's this big 20% of the time we're like, it's not just about how many strikes landed, but how impactful the damn strikes were. So it's been kind of pissing me off a little bit.
This is good.
Right?
I like it.
So
I like it.
Here's one last thing, and this is going to go into another little extra state of the MMA world topic that I just threw on the bottom here, is the PFL, which I dislike a lot, and I'm going to get into it in a second. But what they have introduced, and I need to study it a little bit more. So this is why I'm saying we'll have more of it on the next one. Give me a little time to study it. What they've done is they've introduced AI scoring. It doesn't, of course, judge the fight, but they've been bringing it there. And I'm sure there's an AI calculation that's all those things that I just said: knockdowns, small strikes, significant strikes, control, takedown, submission attempts, things like that. And they've been checking to see if the judges are also in line with the AI calculator. I would love especially now that the UFC, you see how they've been partnered with Meta. Did you see that whole storyline
Yes.
where
Yeah.
Dana's with Zuckerberg and they're going to do a new ranking system, which I don't know if we need. I like our ranking system, but whatever. Why not? Why are they not fucking working on AI scoring? That
Exactly.
would
I
be
love
the
it.
future. Now,
That's beautiful.
it gets a little tricky though, because it's the same thing with umps in baseball. They're very hesitant to do the robot with the strike zone. We would really need to test it for years to make sure that the algorithm is really right, and because you can't leave it up to robots if there's defects in the software or whatever. But I would love if we went to, because the only way that we're going to ever have something perfectly right is if there is an algorithm that has all of that together. And at least in the meantime, give us more data. Say what a large strike is compared to a smaller strike, and a knockdown is compared to this many significant. They should almost give that out a little bit more. Anyway,
Listen, if
so
it's AI, they should be able to give a nice little quick summary and wrap up what the rationale was for the judgment of the fight from the AI's point of view. So you can get a quick summary that should be generated. I don't mind if they put that up against what the ref did. So, you have that sort of like, and even if it's a little bit controversial, it's an interesting lens. But you're right, they need to test it. They need to get that right. It's going to be some iterations, and that's fine. I think I like the conversation we're having because it's something that I think since the beginning I've really tried to, like, I brought up to you a lot about. I don't want to be a complainer. I want to take the fights and accept. And I want to, but at the same time, there are times you're pulling your hair out and you're wondering why, what is the rationale? What swayed one way or another? What went into that thinking? And sometimes we don't know. And it's just, even if we just knew, that's what I'm saying.
Give us some report at the end that's
Yes.
more detailed, or have some AI bot or whatever that's categorizing something for us.
Yeah, I love it.
And I feel like that might happen with this Meta partnership. Okay. Just really quickly before we go to the lightweight analysis, which I know you're chomping at the bit for, I just want to say the state of the PFL is shameful. So because we have a bye week next week, and you know I'm an MMA junkie, I hate when there's a bye week. So I've already been scouring the internet. In the old days, I would have forced you to watch a Bellator or a PFL or even a fucking one championship from Japan or something like that. I would have gravitated towards anything just to touch, just to have something going on, especially after this past week. Not having something next weekend is just hurting my heart, that there's no movement, there's no action. Yes, we'll have NBA playoffs and whatever, but nothing is doing for it to me like how last night was. Nothing, I don't get the same feeling. So I looked ahead. There is a PFL card next Friday night.
Really?
So I watched, so there's a couple decent guys on it. So here's the thing. So I tuned in for this Friday just to see if I could stomach it next week. And I got to just say, man, that the production is horrific. The state of the affairs were just dismal. The announcer was terrible. The only plus sides that I will say is that the commentators is Tom Hardy, which is another old ex-UFC guy. Great. Got the British accent like a Bisping. Love him. And Randy Couture. So you like, Couture's been part of PFL for a while. So you like that. And then you like the AI scoring bot. At least they're doing that, but the rest was dreadful. The fight was okay. I watched the main event part of it. It was decent. So I might get sucked into this Friday night throwing it on just to
send me a reminder, Ari. Just send me a reminder.
Just because we're addicts need their heroin shot, right? So it's like, all right. So I just wanted to end with that, but I just will say overall, it's rough. I love that the Bellator guys are leaving, that they're coming to the UFC finally, because we just also signed this other guy, Aaron Pico from Bellator, and we just got Pitbull. A lot of those guys that were like unhappy with the PFL, they're getting cut, and PFL's not giving them fights. Now they're coming over. Okay, so now let's go, baby. Our favorite fucking time. So can you see this, sir? And then I'll get into my analysis.
We see it
and
nice and clearly.
Yeah, so let me give mine, and then I know you're gonna want to jump in. You have plenty of time to go here. Okay, so this was always your top class. And for a while, it definitely was. I wouldn't say it was my top class, but it was definitely always in a top three, especially since, the Conor era leading into the Khabib and all that stuff. That gave so much pizzazz to this. Yeah. So now we see, man, there's a lot to unpack here. But you got Islam at the top. He's probably going to be booked with Topuria that most people know. So we're probably waiting for that. So he's sitting there. There is rumors, though, that they might not give him Topuria right away, that it might be Gaethje, that it could be that they'll just give him Charles again, although I don't think people want to see that again right away because he kind of just dominated Charles. Armin's still not in good graces with, he fell out with Dana because he pulled out late. So they're probably not going to rebook Tarzukian. So, but it's probably going to be Topuria. So forget about Islam. Then you got Armin sitting there. You got Charles sitting there. And you got Gaethje sitting there. I think Gaethje needs to fight. I know people are saying, well, he deserves a shot. I think Gaethje should fight an Oliveira or Tarzukian to pass the time. I mean, of course, we need to see what happens with the Topuria Makhachev booking first. But if they get booked, Gaethje's got to fight one or two. Then if you go down, I don't like how Holloway is still listed here. He's a fucking featherweight. Yes, he came up in that bullshit BMF fight and he knocked Gaethje out, which is why they put him as a ranked lightweight. But it's like, pick a fucking division. I hate the floating between 145 and 55. If you want to be a 55er, say you're going to be here. So I'm not even going to look at that until I see where they're booking. There's rumors, and I hate this, that they're going to do Poirier Holloway at 155 for the BMF belt. And I'm so sick of that belt. It's like, it's appealing to the just like ridiculous fans. It's not a fucking belt. It's like the baddest motherfucker. It's like the baddest motherfucker is a champ. I don't give a fuck about this stupid BMF shit and the street BS of like, oh, he's so badass, the Diaz brothers. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking sick of that. I know fight fans like it. And maybe I don't hate the fight for Poirier's last dance, but it should have been a real lightweight. And unless Holloway is committed to 155, I don't want to hear about it. Okay. Then you look at the middle of the pack. Hooker, who looked like he was kind of on death's door at one point. When he lost to Chandler, he had those bad losses. He was down to Turner, and then he just reset himself against Turner, gets that amazing win, and now he's on another. The guy looks unbelievable. He looks like a whole new band. Oh, yeah, he also rallied against Gamrot when it looked like Gamrot had him, was out wrestling him, and then he hit him with the better, even though that was very close, and we got the split decision. But Hooker, now I think he is going to get a shot against a Tarzukian or Oliveira, depending on how Islam, Gaethje, Topuria plays out. I don't actually hate a Hooker-Poirier rematch for Poirier's final fight, even though I don't really like final fight nonsense. Okay, then you get to, what are we doing with Gamrot? He's still a player. What are we doing with Dariush? He's still a player. What are we doing with Moicano? He's still a player, even though he lost to Makhachev. He went on that huge run. Then you still have Fiziev sitting there, who, he doesn't have that allure that he once did because now he's lost a couple, to Gaethje, but he's still there. And then I think what gets very exciting, because I think that middle of the pack, maybe I've lost excitement a little bit, except for maybe the Gamrot Hooker. I don't care I don't know if I care about Dariush Moicano, Fiziev as much as I once did. But now you look at Pimblett, St. Denis, Dawson, Bahamundos, especially Pimblett. Now we know come Monday morning, Patty is going to be in the number 7 of the world. So let's address that, Niko, because I know that's the big topic. Patty then I like him against Hooker. I like him against a Poirier. I like him against a Gaethje, a Charles, a Tarzukian. Any of those ones that he said, I like actually any of those fights. Okay?
Okay.
Give him Oliveira, because then they're both great on the feet, and then let's see who's the better fucking grappler, baby. I love Oliveira Pimblett. That would be the matchup maybe that I would want to see. Tarzukian would be crazy because we'd have to see, can Pimblett deal with the wrestling of a Tarzukian to then know if he can deal with an Islam, okay? And then I feel like Bahamundes, remember he upset Turner. He's a new rising star. And then St. Denis is kind of after that last loss. He's not the same guy. I think he got destroyed by Moicano, and he's sort of like, and then Dawson's hovering. So that's my take. I still think it's top 3 division in the world. Now you can go for it.
Well, listen, okay. I think Islam Makhachev has reigned this division. He's held strong. I think he needs to be challenged more because, in my opinion, I still have more to see from him. I see Poirier bringing him to the brink of the dark waters.
The best challenge.
I see what happened with Volk the first fight and what Volk did, ending up on top ground and knocking him down in the 5th round, sitting on top of him ground and pounding him and saying, and you're still champion. So I have my doubts around Islam's invincibility, but he does deserve it, and he's there. And Topuria now is going to step in. So if that's true and that's really going to happen, okay, let it happen. I'm for it, and I want to see it because it's the hottest, it's the sexiest, it's the, I think that's the fight that has the most cachet to it. But you said a few things. You mentioned a bunch of names in the middle of the pack. No, Ari. There really isn't. All these fighters, Moicano, Dariush, even Gamrot, Chandler, all these fighters, Fiziev, they've fallen. They don't have, I think the middle,
Well,
even at the
Gamrot
top.
maybe, though. Gamrot still has a chance because he's got that
Gamrot
wrestling.
is the one that I see. And then you mentioned Hooker too. So Hooker has some cachet in him. So does Gamrot. But the rest around there lost their luster. They've fallen a little bit. I don't see a lot there all the way until you get to Pimblett. Pimblett is now the story. Pimblett now going to 7 means put him versus an Oliveira. Yet, who did you say? Hooker would be great with Cherukhian. That combination would be beautiful. You want to see that. Okay, I'm kind of done with Arman being on Dana's bad side here. We need Arman to fight. Let's get him a fight.
Yeah,
and I need to see that. Hooker was a great idea. And it's a great fight to make. Gaethje is the one person that might deserve a Makhachev if it's not going to be Topuria. So Gaethje is someone sitting there that's I think has the right to fight for the championship. If it's not now, it's the next one. So overall, it's still at the top of the top. You can never discount the 155 weight class. It still has the allure overall, but it's all about bookings. I need to see the bookings now. We need to see some matchups booked so we could get some more clarity in this division. I'm excited about it. And we need to see what the announcement's going to be at the top of the ticket. That's the most important. Where is Islam going next?
Yeah, the crazy thing here, Niko, is the only booking we have in the entire top 15, which is shocking, is Saint Denis versus your boy Alvarez, who is outside of the top 15.
Wow.
Who's a scary other. Don't forget Alvarez, that other Spanish guy coming in, okay?
Oh, that's true.
So there's a lot of other, but yeah, other than that, there's no booking. So this is weird. It's very rare. I mean, because the other classes, we did have more bookings. This is, we're just coming off, of course, Pimblett just fought, Chandler just fought, Gaethje just fought, right? So, and Fiziev just fought. But this is weirdly, it's all because of the Islam Topuria mess. Are they going to book it, or are they going to make Topuria fight in Oliveira and then give Islam Gaethje? We don't know, okay? But we love this.
We love it.
So you know what? One thing I actually forgot to do, though, that I need to just go back really quickly, that normally I set the stage with, is the importance of the division. You know, I always do that little historical thing. I don't know you to go too deep into it, but lightweight, just to set the stage for everybody, was, you know how we always talk about the bigger weight classes were always more respected. And then you slowly went down from heavyweight to light heavyweight to middleweight to welterweight. Then you finally got to lightweight. And there used to be this stigma of, like, even me, I was like, oh, I don't care about these fucking smaller guys. Like, what are you talking about? And then in came this phenom, BJ Penn. Okay, he ran through a Dean Thomas. He ran through a bunch of people. And he was a first big, famous, important lightweight champ. And then what made him bigger, larger than life, and I actually hated it because I was a Matt Hughes guy, is BJ said, you know what? I'm going to go up to welterweight, challenge Matt Hughes for the belt. He goes up there and beats him. I was devastated, baby. Wow. Of course, Hughes gets revenge in a rematch later, you know, but so that's what made BJ so big, was that he was a lightweight, but he went up and actually stole the welterweight crown to then come back and then also reset himself as the lightweight champ. Then comes in Frankie Edgar, who could dethrone BJ. Although, you know what, and I'm sure Richie Boy doesn't agree with me, I think on the rematch, even though I did not like BJ, I was never a huge BJ fan, I think BJ won that fight. I think it was a bad decision that they gave it to Frankie. But then anyway, then there was like a crazy carousel of champs. So you had Frankie, you had Benson Henderson came in, and then all these different guys from the WEC kind of flooded in, right? And then eventually you're going to have Alvarez that came over from Bellator. Remember, he took the belt, and that's where Conor showed up, and Conor took him out. And if Conor had just fucking stayed and not done all this nonsense with Floyd and all, and fucking around all these years and going fighting Cowboy and Nate Diaz at welterweight, he could have been one of the greatest lightweight champs, but he fucking blew that chance, and always pisses me off. And then, of course, then the Khabib era. So now you know the background right,
Yes.
of that lightweight. Maybe you haven't heard that in a while. So for the newer fans, you always hear it from us first, Wally and MMA Savvy. We have that historical knowledge. And now what went from a division that no one cared about to now being one of the most important, highest echelon divisions in the entire sport, which is pretty
Now,
crazy to see.
briefly, can you tell us though something about the actual stature of the fighters? Like, there's something about the lightweight division. Tell me a little bit about that. When you think about the class as a weight class, there's the athleticism, right, that the lightweight possesses, some level of power. Talk to me a little bit about that and how it
So
fits.
I think where this is it sits below. Remember I told you last time that welterweight was the perfect medium. It was right in the middle of athleticism and power. On this side, lightweight is still a little bit on the smaller side to be the perfect weight
Right.
class. I feel like where welterweight and middleweight probably sits there. I think welterweight is the perfection because you get the speed, athleticism, cardio, and then the power, right?
Yes.
Whereas lightweight, now you're on the smaller side of the guy. So I think it's one of the
But you're at the highest level. You're at the, sort of like at the peak of the small.
Yes, you're at the peak of the small, but you're always going to be considered a little bit smaller to really be like the greatest ever, because of that. That's because you're like, you could be a 5'8", 5'9", 5'10" guy, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but yes, to me, it has become over time, I would say middleweight, welterweight, lightweight. Those are my favorite just watching because you get the size of the bigger guys, but then the speed of the smaller divisions and the cardio and the athleticism. So that's what I would say. It's on the smaller, but it could be one of the greatest ever because they still have the power. So with that, I hope you love our divisional analysis. It's one of the greatest things that we do here. Let's take the final break from our sponsor here. Okay, baby, and we're back to the show. For the final segment, we got to make our fucking picks. There is only one card in the next 2 weeks, which screws MMA fans. Yes, there's the PFL, but it doesn't fucking count. I'm still going to probably throw it on, just for because I'm an addict, and just see, and I like to, and we did talk about this before. How many times have I said, now that you know the Bellator guy, now you know how he's been signed and what he's going to look like. So, we need to pay attention to it a little bit, especially like Ngannou fights and some of those guys that are still in the PFL, which I think is a joke. Okay, so next week we don't have a card, which is a shame.
Right.
So 2 weeks from now, the day before we have our next show, it is Gary Protest, which we already talked about. Okay, they filled in for Hill and Roundtree. It's live in Kansas City, so thank God it's not the fucking Apex. I love it. It's a later start time for you, so it's more like the main, the pay-per-view feeling. Great. It'll be 9 p.m. start time for you, so it gives that the nicer, nighttime energy, higher level feeling. So let's just go through these really rapid fire. I have no prelims to talk about. Also, I'm going to tell you what I also have, as you can see here. I got the fight odds dialed in with the lines because they're not on here. So we're going to go through this. Aliskerov, who we know because he was that rising star, and then he lost to Whitaker. I think they put him up way too high in class. He came in with 2 knockouts. They gave him Whitaker. Whitaker took care of him. And then Muniz was another scary grappling phenom that was beating a lot of people. And then all of a sudden, he fell on hard times. He lost to your boy Allen. He looked like, oh my God, he's a shell of himself. And he rallied. He won his last fight. He beat Park. So he reset himself, but just so you know, the line is Aliskerov is a minus 610. Wow. So there's nothing that we even need to look at. I'm taking Ikram. I'm sure you are too.
I for some reason, I feel Muniz, that could be an if you were to touch value on my part. If I'm going to toss one in, it's going to be Muniz, but I will take officially Asklarov. We'll call it Ikram. I'm with you on that.
Okay, so I mean, listen, it's not a bad one. He did come back and beat Park, who's a very tough Korean, and Aliskerov's coming off a loss. Muniz is coming off a win, and he was the boogeyman just a couple years ago when he beat Jacare and all these guys, so you never know. But I can't go against the Vegas odds, so we're both going to take Aliskerov for that one. Then we get to Rude Boy Randy Brown versus Dalby, who you also like. Because remember one time we doubted Dalby, and he came in and he had that like unbelievable underdog victory. Yeah. Oh yeah, he beat one of the Bonfim brothers and he shocked us. And he's a tough guy from Denmark. But just so you know, the line, Rude Boy is a minus 190. I love Dalby and I want to touch him, but I gotta go with Vegas here. Randy is a little bit, he's got great striking and great great grappling. He's a little bit better, well-rounded of a fighter. So I'm going to take Rude Boy and be safe. Who do you want here, Niko?
I'm taking Dolby, baby. I'm taking
Wow.
Dolby. It's just an instinct. It's a feeling. I think he can grind him and steal it.
Okay, I like it. And now here's something that I want to point out to you. We've been really bashing Dana and his light cards recently, okay? And remember what we said about any of the non-pay-per-views. You better fucking have rankings at the top and rankings at least 3 down. This actually has rankings 4 down. Not the, I wouldn't say the best matchups in the world, but we got rankings. Finally, fighters that are on that, 165 fucking ranking carousel are finally popping up again. So we got the other Pereira, Michel Pereira, who was a striking phenom, and he had won like 4 or 5 straight until he finally, just to refresh your memory, oh, that's right, he got, of course, grounded by Hernandez. But anybody who runs into Hernandez, he's an elite striker, but his grappling is where he has the issue. But he's number 14 in the world against Magomedov. We know Abus, remember? Because he was that new German killer, and they gave him Strickland too early. He looked great in the first round, and then Strickland dispatched of him. Do you remember that in the second round?
I remember that.
And
Absolutely.
that's what got Strickland back into that title fight that then gave him the win over Izzy. So I'm going to give you the odds, okay? Right now, it's quite close. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah, I see it.
Pereira is a minus 155, and I'm going to go Magomedov and take the underdog against you, baby, because I feel like he's better.
How do you know I'm going to take Pereira? How do you know that?
He's more well-rounded. I don't like how Pereira gets grounded by guys. If they're not standing, he doesn't win. And Magomedov's great on the feet too, and he reset himself on a big win last.
I'm taking Pereira.
Wow, I like this.
I'm taking Pereira. You're taking Magomedov. Chikazde's next. I'm gonna jump in here, Ari. Give me Chikazde. I don't even want to know. I just like his striking is like elite level striking. He hasn't made the run in the UFC that you expected to see. I don't know much about Onama, and he looks scary. So I don't have a history here, but I'm going to take Chikazde just because sometimes those fighters that come into the division face stiff really, really kind of learn what it's about to be ranked here. So I'm going to go with Chikazde. Who do you have here, Ari?
And I like that you did that because you just screwed yourself, baby. Yes, he's number 11 at featherweight. And yes, he had all that buzz behind him. And remember, Cater derailed him, and we lost our minds when Cater outboxed him because we were so worried about the Giga kick. Since then, he lost to Allen also, but it was a close fight. So he lost to Cater, he lost to Allen, and he's been really inactive. Onama he's won his last 4, and he is a minus 180, so it's not a bad pick, but I'm taking Onama against you. I don't care about the ranking. I don't trust Giga anymore, but this is a perfect setup for Giga to reclaim his unbelievable leg strike status that everybody was talking about, the unstoppable Giga kick, because maybe Onama's going up in class, so it's not a bad pick on your end.
Yeah, I still feel good about it. I stick with it.
Then you get to the co-main, and I do not like that this is the co-main. Listen, I love Anthony Smith. I hope we're boys one day that I can come on the podcast and talk to him and talk to Bisping, and so I don't want him to take offense to this, but dude, first of all, how is Dana? It's one thing to give him the fight, but you're going to put him as the co-main? I mean, yes, he's still 15 in the world, but it's like, bro, he's not even like competitive in the last couple of fights. It looked really, really bad. Yes, he did submit Spann twice in the last couple of years amongst the losses, but the fact that they're trotting him back out and then also putting him as the co-main event blows my mind. The reason is because Ming Yang is a new Chinese killer who has 2 straight KOs. And I guess they're just, since Anthony Smith is a company man, Dana's giving him like one last fight, but I'm very scared. Like, look at this line, bro. Ming Yang is minus 425. So I got Zhang heavy. Smith
Me
is
too.
done.
No question.
I don't know why they're trotting him out anymore.
I echo everything you say about Smith, and I've watched every one of the last like 3 straight Smith fights, and I'm sort of done. Though again, I respect him and I like him, and I always want him to do well. I always like root for him, but he never quite puts enough output for me to justify trotting him out as the co-main. So Zhang gets my vote there, and that leads us to the main fight.
Yes, the main fight. I'll set the stage. I'll do my thing. Gary, Prates, we already talked about it earlier, so we don't really need to analyze it. But yes, Gary's coming off the Rachmanov loss, but he also didn't look very good against Neal. So he barely beats Neal in a very close affair as a split decision. He barely beats MVP. And I thought that could have gone either way. He got lucky with that decision. And then, yes, he has a valiant effort against Rachmanov, and he even has him like in trouble grappling, I think, late in the 5th round. But his buzz has gone downhill for me, whereas Prates has won 4 straight in a row. Just so you can see, Gary is still a minus 120. What I'm going to do here, Niko, because I know you're going Gary, I'm taking Prates, and I'm going with the underdog, and I'm going to shock the world, and I'm going to go up heavy fights on you here, because I know Richie Boy probably is going the same way. What do you say here?
Give me Ian McConnell,
I knew
Gary,
it.
baby, because that's who we've got, and I still think he's got upside. He's got the full package, so I still have confidence in him. Prates is coming in. Yes, he's got some buzz, he's got momentum, but give me Gary to slow that train down and just and establish, you know, his sights moving forward. So this is going to be a good one.
So honestly, the final thing with the if you were to touch, I literally have none. I mean, I guess it's a toss-up between a Gary or a Prates. Yeah, so
I
let's
like
just
Muniz, man. That's the
I
shocker pick.
Yeah, Muniz plus 400 for
listen,
you don't want to put
a lot on it. You would put a little bit on it for the upside. You touch it. That's why it's called if you were to touch.
I guess, but also they got to be smart bets once in a while. It's like, you know, so I get, okay, fine. Let's say Muniz, and then we'll say Gary, just so we had something. Because Gary, you're getting a number 7 in the world. Maybe Prates is going too much up in class this time, and we always talk about it. So I guess, but I think both of those are going to lose. So with that, we'll see. That was unbelievable. So before I do my outro, Niko, what a show. Any final words from you?
No, we have a lot to look forward here. The summer is upon us, and before you know it, we're gonna have even more bookings to come, and we're gonna know what's going on with Jones. We're gonna know what's going on with Islam. Next time we talk, we're gonna have some developments. I just have a feeling about it. So, you know, I know we have a little bit of a mourning period. MOURNING, because we're missing a week where we don't have a card, but we're going to be back strong. Hit me up on Friday, Ari, and poke me and remind me about the PFL that's coming up.
We're gonna throw it on just to see so you can see what the production's like, if there's any decent fighters that might come over later. Great. Friday night, at least there's something.
We might see some fighters that we know that we're probably we've caught before. So
old Bellator guys.
Yes, exactly. Good, Ari. This was awesome.
So thank you for listening to the Wally Report, the world's hottest podcast and the MMA Savvy Special Edition. Please subscribe, follow, comment, like, share, and blast. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're blasting hard on the talk. We're heavy on the gram. And now we're taking over YouTube as well. We're getting big time hits recently. The new hottest place for TWR and MMA savvy content is on YouTube. That's at the Wally Report. We've been posting amazing video clips from our episodes on our social channels, so don't miss out. And please make sure to comment on Spotify, comment on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Let us have it if you hate what we're saying. We actually got a lot of people were bashing me on TikTok recently. So if you want to go after Wally, find one of the platforms, go for it. I know Big Rich will have some fucking comments. We love the comments and interactions with the fans. So with that, let's jam out to the tune.